Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. This is going to be a light continuation from yesterday's video. Simply because the amount of news that has re-entered the market when before it was something negative is quite astounding. For those of you who did not get the news it's been a week or so ago, Hong Kong actually has their ETFs listed. They are spot. They are in kind. The companies are accumulating actual Bitcoin and also actual Ethereum as well. When these first launched, it was when the market was like spiraling down, ? I don't know what words to throw there. A couple of days ago, and everyone was like completely mortified and terrified of what was going on. And I was like, why is everyone so afraid? Because the news we keep getting was amazing. Even the news that we got, once again, there for those of you who missed it, that was being reported was, I saw the number 11 million. Apparently they were saying that on the actual day of the launch, only 11 million, it says 12 million here, was the actual volume for that day. And then I saw other companies who were actually like releasing the information of what was happening over the course of that period when these things just launched. For those of you not looking at the screen, a company called Bosera Hashkey actually ended up buying or holding 964 Bitcoin worth $59 million, and also 4,292 Ether worth $12.9 million as well. The significance, for those of you who do not know, you should know by now, is that the amount of Bitcoin that comes out of the machine per day is 450. So this company bought twice the amount of Bitcoin that was being created per day. And this was also when, I remember, because we were also getting news about, that BlackRock and Fidelity, I think on one day had only purchased around, I think, $13 or $14 million. And I remember being like, do you have $13 or $14 million to put into the market? It's still an excessive amount, especially as prices were falling. So here's where you're going to start seeing the pattern emerging very quick, because this is all news that was popping up as the market was falling, and then subsequently came out again with a rather like nice spin on it. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says BNP Paribas, Europe's second largest bank, has apparently started buying shares in BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. According to a recent 13F filing with the US SEC, the bank purchased 1,000 shares in the first quarter at $40 per share. So they hold roughly around, at least now at the time of me making this video, $41,000. And I saw people discussing this online, or rather I saw this in other places and other articles. And even on this one, it says it represents a minuscule portion of the bank's portfolio. You don't understand the significance of any bank getting into the cryptocurrency space and buying Bitcoin, whether directly or indirectly. A lot of news of which we've been having for a very long time within this space. The significance is that this is the second largest bank in Europe, and they've begun to actually start buying Bitcoin through BlackRock. The other crazy part, as a bit of a refresher, because I'm sure some people have forgotten, no matter how much news that we get per day about daily about crazy things happening within this market, people tend to forget quite quick. For those of you not looking at the screen, we had news that the largest, largest federal bank largest federal bank within Germany, they're called Landesbank Baden-Württemberg, is also getting into crypto as well. They're starting out with custody, which is the way that it always ends up first working out. In 2019, when we started hearing about banks getting within the space, it revolved mainly around helping institutions and other rich people to get into the space. And the way that it's kind of evolved, and we were told that it would evolve, was that after all the rich people were full and had all the Bitcoin that they wanted and had been buying for a while, that's when these banks then begin to offer Bitcoin to their normal clients, people walking in and asking for services and things. So over the course of a 2-week period, we have news that the second largest bank in all of Europe is getting into Bitcoin, and that Germany's largest federal bank is also going to start offering crypto custody services, and they are going to move into buying and selling crypto as well for their clients. And once again, a bank can't do that. You can't sell Bitcoin to your clients or give them, offer exposure unless you actually own Bitcoin yourself. The other interesting part that was also pushed under the rug as prices were falling and everyone was told to panic, and as I always try to remind everyone, when it comes to being crypto vigilant, is to make sure that as prices are falling, see if there's any actual whale news. Why? Because there's always whale news whenever prices are falling, that people are buying up huge amounts of Bitcoin. According to Eric Balchunas, Bloomberg's senior ETF analyst, Hong Kong-based alternative investment firm Young Rung Asset Management scooped up $38 million worth of BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin IBIT. Notably, this makes up an impressive 12% of the fund's total holdings, despite the recent launch of cryptocurrency ETFs in Hong Kong. Balchunas claimed that the firm likely opted to use BlackRock because of low fees and a high volume as well. So that was also something that people pretended wasn't actually happening. And then also you have this one right here. So a lot of the news that we got when the ETFs were launched, and especially when cryptocurrency prices were much lower, is that the Hong Kong ETFs were a complete failure. Nobody wanted them. They weren't doing anything, and blah, 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 so and so and so and so. Hong Kong's debut of Bitcoin ETFs, it says, has now captured global attention with an impressive accumulation of $258 million worth of Bitcoin within the first week of trading, led by Huaixia Bitcoin, Harvest Investment Bitcoin ETF, and Boshi Bitcoin ETF. Yeah. 3 newly introduced Bitcoin ETFs in Hong Kong have made a resounding impact by accumulating an impressive 258 million Bitcoin within the first week of trading. This is for data from HODL 15 Capital. Apparently, they collectively accumulated 4,218 Bitcoin in just 3 days. Like I said, it was going to be a light touch on the previous video when we were going over constantly, because we always have to, how whenever prices dip a tiny bit, I've noticed over years that people want to only bring out negative news as if all this crazy stuff isn't happening behind the scenes. We know that, like all markets, but especially for ours, the richest people are trying to make sure that you're not in the market, or that you sell, or that you have no intention of getting into the market. They're trying to lower prices so that it's easier for them and their friends to be able to buy. There has not been one time in my memory, in the course of the last 8 years, almost a decade, where we've heard that Bitcoin's price has fallen and that rich people haven't been buying, that whales haven't been accumulating. A lot of the narrative, once again, is going to fall on the shoulders of probably more than likely just BlackRock. The issue there is, for those of you once again not looking at the screen, is that these three companies in 3 days purchased roughly just under 10x the amount of Bitcoin that was coming out of the machine per day. The accumulations are heavy. The rich people are here, and it's more of a, I don't know what else to even throw into that sentence. Every single time that we get a situation like this, when prices fall, people lose spirit so quickly and pretend like it's a woe is us moment. And it's like, no, the market, as always, is doing just fine. The accumulation levels are absolutely insane. A lot of times I think people get lightly corralled into this situation where they're told that the most important thing, as always, to pay attention to is just the price. And I'm like, no, look at Bitcoin's fundamentals. Look at how many people are mining Bitcoin, the hash rate, how much money is flowing through the market, how many new wallets we have per day. Even more so, just, completely logical here. If there's only 450 Bitcoin made per day, and we're hearing that collectively 15 companies are buying 10x that daily, and that's not accounting for the millions of other people in the market who are also buying fragments of coins all the time and have reoccurring buys, of course we're going to hit a $100,000 Bitcoin. But I need everyday people to also realize this as well before we get there and all these rich people have accumulated all this Bitcoin. Yeah, that's the trendy part, I guess. Yeah, all these coins have been bought up during the dip, and they're still being bought up because that's what always ends up happening. That's the Hong Kong and BlackRock and second largest bank in Europe and the largest federal bank in Germany are all in the market. So please pay attenzione. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, crypto asset investment manager known as Panta Capital is trying to raise over $1 billion for a new fund that will offer investors the full spectrum of blockchain-based assets. It says scheduled for launch in April 2025, Pantera Fund V, or I guess fifth, will serve as the firm's all-in-one fund with slight modifications from the existing liquid token fund, early stage token fund, and venture funds. Fantastic. A lot of companies tend to do this. It's basically a way, like an all-encompassing way to get into the market for institutions who are, if you find just Bitcoin exposure to be boring, well, guess what? We can get you into Bitcoin mining, and we can get you into Bitcoin this and Bitcoin lending, and you kind of name it. So, yeah, not popular news at all. Usually these news stories used to be very, very popular. And I mean, even more, the numbers before used to also be a lot lower. So we would hear that a company was, only raising $100 million to invest in things within the cryptocurrency market, and people would go insane. But this is what I say about that entire blasé thing that we have going on, where people pretend that $1 billion for cryptocurrency investments isn't a lot of money. But, I think people are hyper desensitized in the cryptocurrency space to a lot of these numbers. But yeah, Pantera is going to be launching a new fund. Many other companies have announced similar things to it, but they also don't end up becoming that popular. A lot of times, the money that they're raising is just for an allocation into crypto. And I always assume that they'll be more popular, but, people tend to pass over a lot of those news stories. That's the Pantera news. Moving along. I also thought this would have been more popular. People were barely talking about this. Coinbase has announced that they're going to be adding support for the Lightning Network. I don't know why it took them so long. I assume there were maybe massive amounts of integration or computerization that were going on. The Lightning Network is constantly touted as the thing that's going to make Bitcoin go mainstream. Bitcoin is mainstream, but they mean mainstreamier. As the Bitcoin blockchain will probably more than likely, not within the next 20 to 30 years, the core be updated to have tens of thousands of transactions per second. The Lightning Network can essentially already do this. It has a lot more space to become much more robust, and to have a lot more channels, if you will, because you need channels on it to be able to actually send the money through. But one of the only ways that normal people are going to start using Bitcoin is when they can buy things with fragments of Satoshis. So it seems unplausible for you to now, and the narrative years ago was so annoying. I was like, please stop. The narrative years ago was that no one's going to buy a stick of gum. And I was like, what? Who's buying chewing gum in one stick? And they're not going to ever buy coffee with Bitcoin unless they can do it with the Lightning Network. So you will and are now essentially able to send payments this way. But I think, doesn't Facebook have their own debit card? I think every crypto exchange now does as well. The idea is you won't have to worry about having a $28 network charge as you're trying to buy something for $2, $3, $4. You'll be only paying less than a fragment of 1 cent to be able to do so. Other exchanges have begun to do so or announced that they would be doing so. I think Kraken and didn't Binance say they were going to do this a year ago? I don't remember hearing any extra news after that. This is kind of the final thing that we really needed because Coinbase and Binance and Kraken are so large. When your Bitcoin is on an exchange and you decide to use your card, if you have a card issued to you, you can essentially just buy whatever you want and it ends up going through Lightning. We saw this initiative try to take off years ago in 2018 through the New York Stock Exchange and backed, BAKKT. But as I said before, and even more, I still feel lightly the same way. A lot of people aren't going to be very inclined to spend their Bitcoin if the market has expectations that Bitcoin is going to 100,000 and or $500,000 within the next year and or 4 years as the popular time frame ends up going. So it's nice to see the infrastructure being built. But from a very realistic standpoint, people aren't going to be too keen on selling any Bitcoin when it could potentially 9x over the course of a couple of years. I think once we get to a multi-$100,000 Bitcoin, I think we're definitely going to see people buying TVs with Bitcoin and a whole bunch of other purchases under 1,000. When we get to $1 million Bitcoin, people are going to be spending their Bitcoin all the time. But this is the way that we actually have to do it. In a new announcement, Coinbase says it is giving users a choice in how to send Bitcoin payments by integrating the Lightning Network. The idea is, for those of you, once again, as a reiteration, one of the popular theories is that if you want to send a smaller amount, $14, $182, dare I say $2,000 equivalent, you're probably going to want to do it in as quick a way as possible, so you'll use the Lightning Network. No one's going to really want to, if you want it quick and fast, you'll do it this way. The theory is if you want it to be more secure, you would use the Bitcoin main chain, the main Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Because the theory is that rich people won't mind, sending... So if you're trying to send $128 million, you don't want to send it to your bank and then have them transfer it because you're going to incur a gigantic amount of fees. So if you're sending huge amounts of money, essentially, and the transaction fee is $44, you won't mind because you know it's going to get there. You don't mind spending $44 to send $128 million, to send $1.5 million. So this is why they say giving users a choice. Do you want to try and send 1.5 million through the Lightning Network? Because you would also need a channel that will allow $1.5 million to go through it. For those of you who don't know how Lightning works, is basically you kind of like make your own road. And along that road, you have a sign before people drive on it. And it says, I can only, on this road, your car has to be less than 5,000 kilos. It has to be less than this amount, or your car is going to completely go through the road and it won't work. So every other little small car can pass through it. It's the same exact way for Bitcoin. You basically, you open up a channel and you say, I'm going to lock in 0.10 Bitcoin into the Lightning Network. And every transaction that's less than 0.10 Bitcoin can go through my lane of traffic. Easiest way to kind of explain it, and the way that you do it is basically you pay a toll, a fee, as you're driving on that street, and it's usually in the form of 1 or 2 Satoshis. So you would need essentially for someone to have a highway or a lane that they have locked like 5 Bitcoin into for you to be able to make a larger Lightning Network move. I know it's a little weird, but that's the way that they created it, and that's the way that it currently works. They said starting today, Coinbase is rolling out support for the Lightning Network, enabling instant, low-cost Bitcoin transfers. Users will have the option to choose between using Lightning for faster and cheaper Bitcoin transactions or processing their transactions on the traditional Bitcoin network. See how they worded it? It's definitely worded in that way. This integration furthers our mission to build a 1 second, 1 cent global payment system that provides affordable access to everyday financial tools. Have any of you seen videos of El Salvador? Give it a watch. Like, they have a whole bunch of videos of people using Lightning there. It's literally instantaneous. There's no delay. It's like you kind of expect a delay. I don't know how many of you still use your cards and not your phones. Like, you tap, you have to hold it. It says like processing the transaction, like as you're, spending your normal money on like a debit card. I mean, it takes 3 to 4 seconds. It's not like the longest wait ever, but Lightning is like literally like it's done. Like the moment you actually end up tapping it. So it is quite exciting in that way. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit too nerdy. Compared to credit card fees and wire transfer fees, sending Bitcoin on the Lightning Network is on average about 20 times cheaper. I think the last number that we got in US dollar value, it was 0.0006 cents. So it's multiple decimals over from even 1 cent. It's literally air quotes free. It's a couple of Satoshis to actually do so. The Lightning Network functions by enabling off-chain Bitcoin transfers, which aim to reduce transaction time. They said until now, Bitcoin transfers on Coinbase were processed on-chain, which could take anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours and could be costly for users. The Lightning Network, built on top of Bitcoin, enables instant off-chain Bitcoin transfers at a fraction of the cost. Since its launch in time is going by too quick. Since its launch in 2017, so long ago, the Lightning Network has grown steadily, leading to an increase in demand from our users. Does anyone get this? Like, how do I explain this? I have a really weird thing where I'm kind of like obsessed with the future. I don't know if I've told you all that before. The term is a futurist, but that sounds a little bit too intense. I don't like the way that sounds sometimes. I love the idea of what technology can do for us, what we're going to do with technology, all these kinds of things, I mean, the entire spectrum. I won't say them here because some of them are a little crazy, but I love the idea of the future, the idea of digital money, and like, even more so, like the fact that we can, as I said before, for those of you who missed that video, is the weirdest thing ever. I was standing in a supermarket. I was in a self-checkout line, and I realized that like when I got to the actual register and I was checking out my stuff, the woman next to me, I'm expecting her to dig into her bag and like take out her purse, wallet, or whatever. She took out her phone, she scanned her face, it unlocked the phone, and then she tapped it on the machine and she made a payment. And I was like, oh, we live in the future. Like we're in like the future kind of thing. Like we don't have like these. Anyway, I was going to say like self-lacing shoes, but we also have self-lacing shoes now. So that's also, you understand what I'm saying. So whenever I read something like this, the nerd in me gets really excited because I'm like, this is one of the fragments of the reason like why I got into the space. It's this idea of like, I've sent money before through banks or even like overseas, as I mentioned before in earlier videos, to like buy property. And you realize that when you're in the bank and they're like, yeah, okay, your fee's going to be 740. And I'm like, 740 what? Like, you're not doing anything. Like, you're sending my money and there's like a gigantic fee on top of it. The idea of instantaneous global payments is incredibly exciting to me. Because even just from the vantage point of there are 4 billion people on this planet who don't have access to the traditional financial system. They can have instantaneous access to Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. Imagine 8 billion people being on the same network. There are no restrictions for what we can do, where we can send money. And it's instantaneous and it costs 1 cent. This is part of the problem as well when it comes to like MoneyGram and Western Union. There are people around the world who try to send money to their families, and sometimes they charge them a 25% fee, knowing that they're taking advantage of these people who don't have a lot of money. 25% fee. Imagine being able to send money around the world and it costs less than 1 cent. I love stuff like that. I really, truly do. Like it makes me almost like even picture the future, kind of like visualizing it, and it makes... okay, sorry, whatever. Maybe spending a little bit too long in my visualizations, but I truly do love stuff like this. Yeah, so I think this was maybe one of the final pieces of the puzzle. Once we have all the major crypto exchanges actually on it, the next step is really just the price. Because if you have the infrastructure there, people start getting more and more cards issued against their crypto accounts and stuff like that. Like I told you, I have a lot of friends who are really into the idea of like crypto passive income. So they're staking their coins and stuff like that all the time. Cardano, Ether, you name it. But at some point, these people plan on like using their staked coins like as like passive income. Being like, okay, I made, 300-400 today from my staked coins. Now I can use it with my... I love it. I love all of this. I love this kind of like freedom idea from crypto. Anyway, yeah, that's the Coinbase is integrating the Lightning Network. It's about time. Yeah. Let's move on. And also in the news as well, in weird, surprising, and yeah, of course this was going to actually happen news. I saw no one else talking about this, and I don't get why not, because it's a little crazy. There's a company called Wisdom Tree, and Wisdom Tree has a Bitcoin ETF. I think it goes under the number or the letters. Yeah, it's WBTC. The weird part is that the company Arkham Intelligence went through, it says blockchain data, and they found out that, Wisdom Tree also has an ETP, so not an ETF, but they're similar, an exchange traded product. And in that ETP, they also have 8,900 Bitcoin. So everyone has been focusing on Wisdom Tree's Bitcoin ETF when they also have an ETP. And essentially, that's another 8,900 Bitcoin that are lost and gone from the marketplace. Valued at approximately $579 million, at least at the time of me making this video. But it's just one of those. We keep seeing, or I keep seeing, that if prices fall by a tiny bit, and I mean it's something like 3-4%, the amount of news that ends up coming out ends up being quite negative, and or people make sure almost to not like talk about in the news the fact that these companies are buying massive amounts of Bitcoin. And it's this similar. How many of you, show of hands, don't raise your hand if you're doing something dangerous. How many of you knew, or rather, I'll give it to you this way. If you didn't watch this channel, how many of you would have known that the largest federal bank in Germany was getting into Bitcoin? That the second largest bank in Europe was buying Bitcoin? That 3 ETF issuers within Hong Kong in 3 days bought 10 times the amount of Bitcoin that was being mined? There's such a really weird disconnect between like the actual news that's important and prices. And I don't mean the disconnect of like, why isn't the price going up? I mean like everyone's focused on the price and you're not under like, these people have figured out a way to make sure the market doesn't move as they're accumulating billions of dollars worth of an asset. Do you understand how insane that is? At least to me, it's crazy. Constantly hearing this news all the time. But yeah. So apparently Wisdom Tree has a Bitcoin ETP. It's spread across 134 wallets and is holding more than $500 million worth of Bitcoin. And that has never made it into the news. What are the 2 companies that we only hear about when it comes to the ETF? It's always BlackRock and Fidelity and no other companies. Listen, I'm telling you right now, those 3 companies, let me see if I can find it. Is this one? This one right here. I'm certain these 3 companies, we're probably not going to hear about any more activity that they're currently doing within the ETF market, even as they accumulate $250 million worth of Bitcoin in 3 days. Because people will make sure that the news is only about BlackRock so that you are completely left in the dark about these companies who are also accumulating billions per week. Yeah, that's the Wisdom Tree news. People would have never known. It's really crazy. Anyway, yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you've all enjoyed this crazy news. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See